99.9% of the time, you can structure this where you own this house with no money out of your pocket. Let me briefly talk about what the Morby Method is. The Morby Method is actually two separate transactions. The first transaction is an all-cash transaction utilizing a loan and private money lenders. So the Morby Method is two separate transactions. Okay, the first transaction is I am buying this house from a seller. So here's my seller. I get a contract on this house and I open escrow at a title company. So T just stands for title company. The contract price of this house is, let's say that sounds lame. There's no houses for $100,000 nowadays, guys. Let's say $500,000. I've got this seller saying, I am open to seller finance, but I need a large down payment. Okay, so remember, the Morby Method is primarily utilized when sellers are open to seller finance, but they want a larger down payment than you are open to getting and giving them. And the seller doesn't have any other option available to them. In fact, I've got a seller right now. He says, I'm so down with seller financing to you. I'm 100% down with seller financing. However, I have a really big project that I'm in the middle of, and I feel the need a chunk of capital. I need a chunk of capital. And while I understand why you want to give me a low down payment, totally makes sense. I'm an investor too. I get why you want to give me a low down payment. However, I need a large down payment because I want to roll that into a big land development. This is a real situation going on right now. And I go, okay, well, no problem. Would you be open to seller financing a portion of it so that I can bring some money to the table from a non-recourse lender? Now, guys, remember, I'm not going down to Bank of America. I'm not going down to Chase or Wells Fargo, and I'm not getting a conventional loan. I'm getting a non-recourse investor loan. In fact, we're using a couple of different companies right now. The one that I have vetted and I have been promoting and talking about is a company called myinvestorloan.com. That's who we have used. That is who we have successfully completed multiple transactions with. That is who I'm currently talking about because I know they're legit. There are other people. We've talked about a girl named Tanya that I'm in the middle of testing, but I cannot verify that she's a legitimate lender because I personally have not completed a transaction with her, okay? So what I do is I go to a non-recourse lender and I say, okay, Caesar, he wants $350,000 down. So I go to myinvestorloan.com. I obtain $350,000. And then I go to a private money lender, or I'm going to call this a transactional private money lender, meaning they're only going to help me for the transaction only. All of this money, $350,000 and $150,000, go to the title company. And the first leg of the transaction is now completed because I brought all $500,000 to the table, completing the purchase price on the first leg of the transaction. Okay, so don't get confused. The Morby Method is very simple on the first leg of the transaction. Where it gets a little complicated is the way you structure the backend. What doesn't happen in the first leg of the transaction is that this full $350,000 and this $150,000 does not actually get dispersed to the seller. What happens is the title company holds that and they wait for the second leg of the transaction. In the second leg of the transaction, the title company, which is holding the money, they follow a set of escrow instructions that you fill out, and there's going to be some customization in the sense that the way money gets dispersed is going to be different on every deal. However, the escrow instructions are going to tell the title company how to disperse that $500,000. They could say, okay, well, that $500,000, we're only going to send $300,000 to Caesar. I know originally that it was $350,000, but I'm going to tell Caesar, hey, I need $50,000 for my renovation, my closing cost on the first leg of the transaction. Maybe my transactional private money lender gets paid. I have some reno costs in there, et cetera. So essentially I take 50, the seller gets 300, and I then send the $150,000 back to my transactional private money lender. So everybody gets the money that they're supposed to get. Now, I, at the end of this, have two agreements. I have an agreement with my investor loan for $350,000, of which I probably have about a 4% interest rate, 30-year loan that is non-recourse, okay, which is great. It means it doesn't go against your credit. If the whole world fell down, this loan would not go against you. You wouldn't have to bankrupt. It would never go against you, which is kind of cool. They're a lot easier loans to get. You would also have a second agreement. In this strategy, it would be inside of an LLC that you and the seller still own the property and you guys are on title. This gives the seller the security they need for the remaining, in this actual scenario, the seller would be seller financing $150 to you. Okay. There'd be seller financing $150 to you plus the $50,000 they kicked back in. So they would actually be seller financing a total of $200,000 that you owe them out of this operating agreement inside of this LLC. And PCS will structure the LLC for you. Yes, PCS, Prime Corporate Services, will structure this LLC for you, or Sean St. Clair can do it for you if you guys are in Arizona. Sean, where can you structure an LLC for people?
Our client has to be either located in Arizona or Georgia.
Bilal has a real quick question. What happens if the seller decides not to give these instructions? How is the transaction protected? Well, the seller's not giving the instructions, you are. You are opening escrow with these instructions and you're setting up both legs of the transaction. Well, I want to wrap up this thing really, really quickly. So does everybody kind of have a high level understanding of this, right? The first leg of the transaction, I'm bringing two forms of money to the table, right? I'm buying the house cash. The first form could be a 60% loan, a 70% loan. Some lenders are going up to 80 and 85%, depending on the loan, depending on your experience, et cetera. If you guys do a deal with me, guess what you guys get to do? You guys get to partner and leverage my experience when we go obtain this first position loan, okay? So based on your experience, you're gonna get better rates, you're gonna get better loan to value. But whatever that amount is, that's coming from myinvestorloan.com or another non-recourse lender. The other portion of the money is coming from a private money lender. I've got a deal in Florida that we're working where I have to bring $700,000 in private capital from private money lenders where they will put money into escrow. And the escrow officer and the escrow company will release those funds in the second leg of the transaction back to my transactional private money lender, plus their fee that I work out. So that's a big deal. That's a multi-million-dollar deal that I'm doing. However, if I'm doing a smaller deal, I've got another deal that we're working right now where the private money I need is like $35,000. Okay, there's a dozen or 100 different ways you can skin that cat. But in the first transaction, I'm bringing cash to the table. And in the second transaction, I'm structuring a partnership agreement with the seller so that the seller is technically not in second position. It satisfies the lender who gave me the loan in the first place, and the money is being dispersed to the appropriate parties. 99.9% of the time, you can structure this where you own this house with no money out of your pocket.